Charles Baudelaire is a name you must know if you are going to have an adequate understanding of 19th century art, or really modern art in general. He was not an artist. He was a poet, an art critic, an influential 19th century thinker, and he was a friend of both Courbet and Manet's. He was one of the most important voices to interpret art in the mid-19th century as realism was remaking art. He was there as a witness, explaining it, pushing it forward. And he is the most powerful voice articulating what is the third essential component of realism. Along with subject matter and truth, realism is about the commitment to contemporaneity, to be of one's time. This is Baudelaire's most famous and indispensable phrasing. Il faut être de son temps. In French, être being of this time, one's time, temps. A sense of being bound to a particular moment in history. This is key to what he was showing artists doing. Baudelaire wrote a great essay titled The Heroism of Modern Life, which is a kind of manifesto for what artists, realist artists, are doing and thinking about when they turn to their subjects of their own time. And he starts out by giving a little bit of a context of what you usually see in the salon. He says the majority of artists who have tackled modern subjects, the mainstream of the salon who are painting today, have contented themselves with public and official subjects, with our victories and our political heroism. They do this reluctantly, and because they have been ordered by the government, which pays them. So what is he thinking about here? He's thinking about this painting, well, not necessarily just this one, but I'm using it as an example, by Meissonier, who's painting Napoleon's most powerfully victorious battle, the mist of French victory, all of the horses leaping over the grass. What an incredible painter he is, to be able to cram all those moving horse and human bodies into that vast space of a history painting, make that sky so convincing, and give us every blade of grass. And yet, Baudelaire is saying he's doing this because this is what the state wants, what's expected of him, the idea of public official art. It's really not what matters. And Baudelaire's even saying he's doing it reluctantly, that in his heart of hearts, Meissonier knows this isn't really that significant of a painting, even though this painting actually sold for one of the highest prices of any painting in the 19th century. Baudelaire might also have been thinking of a painting like Thomas Couture's painting, The Romans of the Decadence, from 1847, also on the scale of a history painting, giving us neoclassical skills and themes. Couture was actually one of the teachers of Manet, but we'll see how Manet completely rejects, throws away what Couture is up to here with all of his incredible illusionistic detail, his profoundly compressed, effective space, his references, detailed references to classical architecture, his sense of idealized statues, and all of it is surrounded by these kind of people engaged in drunken, kinky, hanky-panky. And so Couture would have thought that this had some resonance for the people of France, in that it's a time of the Roman Republic having turned into an empire and really have descended into, the painting implies, a kind of decadent indulgence that will be their undoing. And that would have been relevant among the political conflict in France. And yet Baudelaire would say, no, this really is not what matters. What we need is something different. According to Baudelaire, we need the heroism of modern life. And that means subjects from private life, not from the public agreed upon established values, but from the intimate realm of private experience, and that there's a heroism in that in quite another way. And then he goes on to suggest what this might look like, the spectacle of elegant life. And by elegant life, he sort of means fashionable life, almost I would say trendy life. I'm not sure I would totally translate it elegant. I think it might work better in our culture to think of the kind of trend setting life, fashionable people, the beautiful people, thousands of floating existence. Notice that word floating, a sense of ephemeral, passing by existences which drift about in the underworld of a big city, criminals and kept women. So he singles out people who are transgressing the norms of society, and in particular women whose sexuality is transgressing the norms of society. These are the people who prove to us that we have only to open our eyes to know our heroism. And so for Baudelaire and for the public, the critics in France in the 1860s, this is one of the most powerful visions of that kind of modern life, that heroism of the fashionable people floating about in the underworld of the city, criminals or disreputable types with kept women. And speaking of kept women, Manet will even suggest that a prostitute, a brazen hussy staring out from the painting, is herself worthy of a kind of heroism, as is her maid, possibly from a French colony like Haiti, with her darker skin color, even her cat. So Manet is the one who, in these particular paintings, most exemplifies the idea of a modern life that has a kind of a heroism that is thoroughly unexpected, that goes entirely against the grain of what is supposed to be heroic and of the public values that have been standard in French culture, in European culture.